Hi everyone, welcome. Let's do a little yoga practice together. For today's practice, you'll need a yoga strap or a strap-like object. So if you don't have a yoga strap, a dog leash would work really well, a bathrobe tie, a longer belt, anything similar in shape to this. For length, we're looking to be able to put it around the foot and be able to reach it easily with the hands. If you have to make do, you have to make do. But if you can get an object of that length, that is best, and it's probably better if it's not too stretchy. We will be lying down for today's practice. If the floor is not accessible to you, please feel free to lie on your furniture. Just know things feel a little different when the surface is not firm, but it's totally okay to practice where you feel best practicing. As we go through the practice today, we'll do one primary pose and we'll do some variations in therapeutic movements within that pose. And as we go, I'll be cueing you to pay attention not only to what you feel in your body, but also to what's going on in your mind, and specifically thinking about your thoughts and your emotions as we're going through the practice. So you're starting to watch for your reactions to what we're doing, to the thought patterns that come up, and form kind of a lens that we're looking at our own movement and our own physical experiences through. And that lens is really important because it can shape our behavior in all kinds of ways. As you're thinking about what's going on in your mind today, I'm going to invite you to think about what in yoga we call aparigraha, which literally means not grasping, right? So the idea of something that you're holding on to, opening your hand and letting it go, that's the imagery of aparigraha. And that can mean all kinds of things. But one way to think about it in your yoga practice is being a little bit less rigid about what things have to look like and what it means to do well when you're doing your yoga practice. So I'll be cueing you through some things to pay attention to as we're going forward. I encourage you, where it feels possible, if you're willing, to just work on letting go a little bit of some of the ideas you maybe have, some of the preconceived notions you might have about what should be happening, and instead to really drop into the moment and just pay attention to what you are actually feeling in your body as you're going through the practice, and we'll see where that takes us. So we're going to start lying down. Feel free to have a blanket or a pillow for your head if you like. Take a moment to get comfortable, to kind of feel into your position here. And we'll take a few breaths just to let your body get used to the idea of being on the floor. Sometimes things shift as we come out of being upright, not having to hold ourselves up in gravity anymore. If you've been taught to step your feet really close to your sitting bones in this position, I'm going to encourage you to step them a little further away. You'll notice, I think, a sense of more space around your knees, your hips, and your low back. We don't want to go so far that we start to feel less stable or we start to feel some strain down in the low back area. That's too much. So you're finding that happy medium with your feet. And then take a few breaths, just noticing sensations, letting yourself settle in here. When you're ready to move forward, we're going to find that strap. You're going to start by bringing your right leg in towards you and bringing the strap around the foot. And then you'll take your foot up towards the ceiling. So the strap can be more towards the ball of your foot, the middle of the arch, or the back of the arch towards the heel, whatever feels best for you. If you've done this pose before, you probably have a habitual way of coming into it. So I'll just point that out because as we move through it, you may find that it's actually interesting to move away from that habitual place. That's where the letting go can come in, right? So we're not holding on quite so tightly to the way that we usually do things. if you're new to this, you have the advantage of that beginner's mind. So that will maybe be a little less relevant to you. So in this position, you're holding onto the strap, one end in each hand. Arms could be straight like I have them, or if it feels better to bend the elbows a little or a lot, feel free to do that instead. Look for the place where it feels like you don't have to work overly hard. There's a little bit of work, you're holding a strap. But this is not about the death grip experience here. So you're going to be in a place where you can have the most ease you possibly can. And then I want you to tune into what you're feeling in your right leg. And so some of us may have already come into a position where we have quite a lot of intense stretching sensation. Maybe you're working really hard to straighten your knee, or you're working really hard to pull your leg in towards you. Maybe as you do that, your low back is getting really pressed into the floor, and maybe you're getting some real intensity in that stretching sensation in the back of your leg. So I just want you to notice if you're doing that, first of all, why you're doing that, what's driving that for you. And then maybe if you're willing, let's just try to do the pose a different way and see what happens. So we're going to come out. We're going to come back in. This time as you come back in slowly, pay attention to the sensations as you're coming back in and see if you can stop where you have the first beginnings of something new. So you're not coming right all the way to the edge of what you can stand. You're just coming to the other edge, right? Just the beginning of some new sensation. And then you're just going to hang out there, see what that feels like. From here, we're going to start to move your legs side to side. And again, some of us are drawn immediately to these bigger movements, either because you've done them before this way, right? Or because you have in your mind, right, the thought that you need to have some stretching sensation for this to be valuable. So some of us are going to come towards these bigger movements just kind of automatically. I'm going to encourage you to do something a little different here. So you're going to let go of those ideas of needing to feel stretch, of making the movement look a certain way. And instead, you're going to really bring your attention to the back of your pelvis. So you're feeling the back of the pelvis where you're on the floor. As you take your legs side to side, see if you can minimize the shifting across the back of the pelvis. So we're not rocking way onto one hip on either side. We're not shifting weight much in the back of the pelvis. We're more focused on small movements, moving the thigh bone down in the hip socket, and it may only be an inch side to side. Some of us might do a little bit more, 2 or 3 inches, but it doesn't need to be a lot. You may have some thoughts or some feelings about making the movement smaller. It's really hard for us to value small movements when we, quote unquote, can do more. Our whole society is structured to teach us that we should do as much as we can all the time. And so if you're noticing some of that in action, I encourage you, if you're willing, to just stick with the smaller movements and then really drop into the sensations. What are you actually feeling when you move in a range that's a little bit smaller? We're going to come into stillness now with this leg in its starting position. I am going to take both ends of the strap into one hand, but I'm only going to do that for demonstration purposes. So you can keep your hands, one end on each side of the strap, unless for some reason that's not working for you. What we're going to do is a rotation here. So as you do the rotation at the hip, you'll notice that your knees and your toes turn towards the right. However, I don't want to focus so much on what's happening in the foot, because sometimes when we do that, we overuse the ankle. There's nothing wrong with using the ankle, except that my intention for today is to work in the hip. So if you're willing to sort of follow along with that intention, we're going to think about moving from down towards the base of the thigh bone. What you could notice is that if you have a seam on your pants, or you could put an imaginary seam there in your mind's eye, the inner thigh seam is going to wrap around the front of your leg. And the outer thigh seam is going to wrap around the back of your leg. And then as you come back to center, they're going to go opposite. Inner thigh seam moves back a little bit, outer thigh seam moves forward. And yes, your range of motion will be different as you go side to side. So here you might notice you're tempted to really go to the end of what is available for you. So you're pushing that range of motion to its maximum. What happens if you don't do that? What happens if you let go of that idea of bigger is better? Let this movement be small, maybe even the smallest movement you can do, but focus on what you're feeling in and around your hip. Here we're teaching the body a movement pattern. We're connecting the brain with the muscles that rotate the hip. We're creating some stimulation for the tissues around the hip joint. And we're practicing aparigraha. It's not to be underestimated. The power of reducing our rigidity, being willing to let go of a preconceived notion, experience something a little differently. When you're ready, you're going to come into stillness. You might even come out of the pose and come back in, paying attention to sensations here. And then when you're ready, you're going to release that strap from your foot, bring your foot all the way back down to the floor. Take a moment here just to be and to observe. Notice if your 2 feet feel different in the way that they're relating to the floor. If there's any differences in what you feel in and around your hips, as well as the rest of the leg and even further afield in the body, you may notice there's a response to the movements that we did. And you may notice as you're resting here, some of us will get little shifts like our body is readjusting, integrating, settling from doing those movements. So let those happen if you're willing. And then when you're ready, we're going to come to the other side. So getting that strap ready again, left leg comes in. You're going to bring your strap around your foot. You're going to bring your foot up towards the ceiling. And again, holding the strap however is comfortable, placing the strap wherever it's most comfortable on the foot. Now, this is the second side. So you learned from the first side that may be informing how you're approaching the pose, or it may not be. So you can just check in, right, with your inner experience and just see, are you in this pose in a way that feels habitual to you? Or even if you're new to this pose, are you in this pose in a way that you're pushing yourself towards maximum sensation, maximum tolerance, maximum range of motion? And then we're just going to come in a little differently. So coming in with awareness of sensation. When you feel something new, maybe you're going to hang out there. Noticing how that's different. And then you might start to go side to side. And again, you can see how it feels, what happens if you do those bigger movements. And remember, we're tuning into the pelvis here, and particularly around the back of the pelvis. So as you're doing these movements, if you do a few of the bigger ones, to check them out, notice what's happening in your pelvis and your low back. And then what if you move away from that? So let go of the idea of trying to feel a stretch. It's not the only kind of sensation you can feel. And it doesn't tell you anything about how beneficial a movement is. All it tells you is that your brain is recognizing some stimulation in the stretch receptors. That's it. And that you're hitting a kind of a threshold for yourself. So instead of chasing the sensation, we're going to let that go if you're willing. I'm going to make the movement smaller, maybe even the smallest movement you can do. And then tune in to what's happening in your pelvis, as well as the sensations in and around the hip. The quality of the movement. Are you able to slow and smooth the movement out here? What else do you feel? From here, we're going to do this rotation. So remember, again, as you're rotating, we're thinking about rotating down in the hip. So we're thinking about the seams of the pants rotating around. And then the movement is coming from low down on the thigh bone, really coming from the head of the thigh bone, the femur bone here in the hip socket. So as you're doing that rotation, you will see the knees and toes move, but see if you can really have your awareness be down in the hip. It does sometimes make a big difference to how the movement happens. So it's worth focusing lower down on the leg. And then as you're doing this movement, notice, are you drawn to try to find sensation by making the movement maximal? And what if you practice in a way that's more minimal? And just notice, if you have thoughts or beliefs about the progress that you'll make, about what it means to do less, notice those as they bubble up. Because those do inform our behavior. And therefore they inform how our bodies feel, right? If you're willing to let that go, or just let that be in the background, and really drop back into, well, what does it feel like to do these small, easy movements? What does it feel like to let this be easy in my body? And then come back into stillness. You might even come out of the pose and come back in, just tuning in again to what you feel as you go. And then when you're ready, you're going to take the strap off the foot. That strap can just go off to the side. As you quietly bring that left foot down to the floor, take a moment just to rest here. And now it may even be more highlighted because this is the second side. Notice how the foot feels on the floor. Maybe compare it to the right side. Notice any sensations in and around your hips. Differences in how your legs feel. Different sensations in the low back and beyond. Giving your body a chance to integrate and adjust after doing this practice. There's no rush here. When you do feel ready to come up, if it feels comfortable, you might roll to your side so that you can use your hands here for some support as you come up. Take your time. And then take your time as you transition into the rest of your day, whether that's more yoga practice or something else. Take, if you're willing, some of this mindful awareness with you. I hope you enjoyed this practice. If you have questions that have come up, or if you want to share your experiences, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed thinking about the concept of aparigraha and what it means to maybe first of all notice what we're holding on to, and then maybe to be willing to loosen our grip a little bit. This is such a useful principle to apply in our yoga practice, in our yoga asana, our breath work, our meditation practice, and of course in the rest of our lives as well. So I hope you find it really useful. Take really good care, and may we all be balanced and well. Thank you so much.